taking the time to come to speak with us tonight, for us to learn from your pathways and perhaps give us ideas, because it's never too late to change or to start something new. Please note that this presentation is bilingual. You will be welcome to ask any questions you may have in the official Canadian language of your choice, rather than just any language of your choice. I think we'll just limit it to French and English tonight, if that's okay. My Spanish is somewhere in my mind, and my German is, I think, in my hands tonight. We have the chance to present 3 alumni from different departments of the Faculty of Arts, different disciplines. And career paths, you'll see, are not always a straight line between what you majored in and what you end up doing. They will share with you their professional experiences after graduation that led them to exciting careers they have today, and hopefully we'll find out where they're going from here. J'invite maintenant le doyen, M. Kevin qui viendra vous souhaiter quelques mots de bienvenue. Dean Key has been at the Faculty of Arts since August 2015, and we are really delighted to have him among us and to have his leadership that is really leading the faculty in this digital age. Dean Key.
Merci Sylvie. C'est un grand plaisir pour moi de vous accueillir ce soir à cet événement de l'Université d'Ottawa, de la Faculté des Arts. Et merci encore à Mireille, vous êtes ici maintenant. So encore une fois, merci She was outside and so missed her appreciation a couple of minutes ago. I'm struck by how full the crowd, the room is, and how many of you are here. And I know it's because of the interest in hearing our speakers tonight and the interest in our subject. And it's a special pleasure for us at the Faculty of Arts to be talking about careers in the digital age, because sometimes faculties of arts are perceived to be set apart from the digital age. And yet, what's happening within our Faculty of Arts is very much connected to your careers, and I'm sure there are going to be lessons that future alumni, present students will be interested in hearing, but also ways that they'll be able to apply it to their present-day studies. So today I spent the day in interviewing a Canada Research Chair in Digital Humanities, and this is going to be a very prominent position within the Faculty of Arts, and we've had large response from leading academics in Canada, and so we're looking to bring somebody in to hire them in to help us lead the way as a Faculty of Arts in the digital age. The Faculty of Arts has named dit qu'un de nos thèmes de recherche dans notre faculté, c'est la culture digitale, numérique, la culture numérique, digital cultures, comme on dit en anglais. Alors, pour nous, le numérique, il est dans la faculté des arts du présent, il est dans nos programmes, il est dans la vie des étudiants, et ça va préparer les étudiants pour les carrières dans le futur. So, thank you in closing to our speakers for coming tonight, for giving up their time. If there's one thing that's a true pleasure, is indeed, there are many, many pleasures, but one thing is to meet those of our graduates who have gone on to succeed in the world. I'm really looking forward to you letting us know how you did tonight. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup pour ces mots. Ce que le doyen n'a pas dit, c'est que cette année, la Faculté des Arts a lancé une nouvelle lumière en sciences humaines numériques. Alors, tous les étudiants, peu importe leur programme, peuvent se prévaloir de ces cours-là. So it's actually a very exciting time this year in September 2016, even though it's November, but we've launched the Digital Humanities minor. So all students, no matter what programs, not only at the Faculty of Arts, but across campus, can sign up for these courses. So we've had 2 in the fall, and we have 2 that still have some space open for January for those who might be interested, and we'd be happy to give you more information. So it really is not just about future hires, but it's about present capacity and having the professors who've been working in this for a long time come together and really lead the way. So we're really excited about that. When I introduced myself to the speakers and I said, thank you for coming, they all said, of course. And it's really nice to have that warmth back. I wasn't here when you were here, but it's just so they know. I think there might be one professor who may have one person in the room. full circle moment. Without further ado, we shall move to our first panelist, Mr. Ian Durand, if you'll join me up front. Ian Durand is an Ottawa-based HR, human resource professional with 5 years of experience in a variety of progressively more challenging HR roles within the IT sector. Prior to finding his passion for HR, Ian worked in the financial services industry in a variety of finance-related roles. Ian holds an undergraduate degree in history from the University of Ottawa, as well as an advanced diploma in human resources from St. Lawrence College, and obtained his CHRP designation, we'll have to ask them for all of those letters, in March 2015. Ian's other passions include hockey, history, which is still there, and dogs. So welcome, Ian.
Great, thanks so much.
Just to let you know the format, sometimes I'll be asking questions, sometimes they might continue without my question. So it's, think of it as a talk show. I get to be my favorite talk show host for the evening. I've always wanted to be on stage.
In the Alex Trebek building, no less.
Yeah, maybe, but less game show, more. I can't think of actually one talk show host right now. So Ian, the first question we have for you: can you describe a little bit of what you do and what it is like to work in your field?
Sure, yeah. It's actually a tough thing to describe because those of you that know what human resources do, it's a little bit of something different every single day, which is exactly how I like it. It's a little bit of babysitting sometimes, but it's bringing new employees into the company, sort of looking at things from how we compensate employees to how we train employees to be the best that they can possibly be. Going to lots of events out in the community to sort of, give back to the community and then also sort of find new employees for the company. It's a really, really interesting field to work in, I think. And my arts background definitely did help when it came to human resources. I think the thing about an arts degree is you get a really good context, a broader context on how the world works and how a lot of people are different, and how best you can manage those people in an organizational context. I think having an arts degree really helps with that. Specifically the space that I'm in human resources, to give you a bit of background, I used to work in human resources at a financial institution called Alternative Savings here in Ottawa. Since moved from there to BlackBerry, so that was quite an interesting experience. I worked there for a couple of years. Unfortunately, that was mostly letting people go, but definitely a lot of lessons learned there as well. And then now I work at a company called UITV. So basically we build TV applications for big media companies like Rogers and Chorus and Shaw here in Canada. And then more recently, Turner Broadcasting in the United States. We recently did an app for the Canadian Football League as well. So it's a really exciting space to be in. Sort of, if you guys know, how many people here still have a cable subscription? Yeah, pretty much no one, right? So really what we're doing right now is essentially helping these big media companies that have tons of content, get their content into applications on a whole bunch of different platforms. So whether it's your iOS device, your Android device, you name it, our company basically helps these big companies get their content onto those devices. So I guess in a nutshell, from what I do on a daily basis, it ranges, right? It can be hiring and firing, which is what a lot of people know HR as, but it's also helping people grow, putting in place programs and structure, because 2 years ago we were 30 employees huddled in a tiny room, now we're 170 employees. So helping the company scale as well. It's a very exciting role, I'd say.
Quite complex from what it seems.
Yes.
I have a second question for you. What do you like the most and the least about either your job or the field of work, and if you dare, remember one you do like, the company for which you work or companies for which you have worked in the past?
Great, yeah, good question. I think the thing I like most about my role is helping people. And most people that are in HR, I think they'll say the same thing. But really, there's nothing better than right from the second, actually even before an employee walks in the door, managing that relationship when they're sort of an applicant to your company. Every little step that you take matters, right? And you have to treat people with respect and with dignity, and that really pays off, because once they become an employee, you help them get onboarded successfully. They feel like they've been welcomed to the company, and then helping them grow while they're within the company. Seeing someone that you sort of manage the relationship with getting promoted a year down the road. There's nothing more satisfying than that, knowing that, hey, I was part of bringing this really awesome person into the company and helping them grow and helping them get to where they want to go. So I'd say that's the thing I love most about my job, for sure. In terms of the company that I work at, the thing I love most right now is that there's a tremendous amount of buzz on us right now. We're building really, really, really cool apps for some of the biggest companies in the world. And it means that I get to do really awesome things. Like, for example, in January, I get to go to Las Vegas for the Consumer Electronics Show and show off what our company can do and talk to massive, massive companies in the media space. So that's a really cool part of what I do. And it's different, right? So, working in HR at Alterna Savings, 100-year-old financial institution versus working at TV, which is a basically 2-year-old information technology company. There's vast differences, but there's definitely positives in both areas. And,
Perfect, thank you. And the last question for now. What would be your definition or the characteristics that you would attribute to a perfect or a very good employee?
That's a great question. And yeah, I think some people will tell you there's no such thing as a perfect employee, but we do have a few of them at UI for sure. I think the main thing that sticks out for me as an HR person when I'm helping make hiring decisions is that motivation, that drive, that ambition to go the extra mile and to do things that aren't necessarily asked of them. Just and sort of being ahead of the curve, thinking of the ways that our technology can be used that maybe nobody else is thinking of. So it's not necessarily just about the schooling that someone's had. We hire a lot of software developers. I'd say that's probably 90% of our company. Some of our best software developers don't have a computer science degree. They were, in some cases, arts grads, but in a lot of cases, they were physics majors or math majors who you just happen to tinker on the side and happen to sort of have that curiosity about the way things work and wanting to sort of build things better. And I think those are some of the best employees from my perspective. Humility is a huge thing too. Just that sort of, you'll hear a lot of people talk about emotional intelligence, and I truly think that's one of the most important things in a hire for us, is someone who is aware of their surroundings, that knows what their strengths are, but also knows what their weaknesses are, and is able to sort of work on those things. And yeah, I mean, we have a saying in HR, you don't hire the brilliant jerks, basically, and I think that's so true, right? In this sort of modern day and age, you really need to be able to get along with your peers. You need to find common ground, and you need to really work as a team, pretty much in any setting. And I think so. Teamwork obviously is a huge component of that as well.
Perfect. Merci beaucoup, Ian. And on va vous revenir tantôt. You can stay here if you like, or if you prefer to go down, you can come back later, whatever you prefer. J'inviterai maintenant Lisa Lee, si vous voulez bien nous joindre. Do you prefer to use? Yeah. Okay, so I will move over here.
Cool, sounds good.
So that I'm not, or I can stay behind a pillar too. Okay.
All right.
I'm not the important part. This is the important part.
I forgot that I picked this very silly picture of me. But I mean, I guess that kind of encompasses who I am. So my name is Lisa. I am the blogger behind The Vegan, as well as the marketing coordinator at a food marketing agency.
I was going to
Yeah.
add that Lisa uses her experience. No, it's okay. It's like a routine. All right.
Something
Very
to
well.
We're working together.
Lisa uses her experience in photography, social media, and technology to create engaging digital content to connect with consumers and inspire communities to love the brands we work with. With a very strong work ethic, Lisa left the realm of translation behind when she found her passion in the world of food. I was recently directed to her site by Yummy. Go and check it out. Lisa has a bachelor's degree in translation, and she also runs her own blog called Vegan. Welcome. Would you like to say a few words before I ask you questions?
Not good. We can
Go straight into questions.
do it.
How does your current position match your career goals?
So to answer this question, I had to think about what my career goals was, and I remember, I graduated in 2012, so it wasn't that long ago that I graduated from Ottawa, and I remember sitting at the graduation being like, what are my career goals? What do I want to do? And when I really thought about it, it kind of boiled down to 6 things. So one of those things, as you can tell, I'm vegan, so I really care about animals, and so I wanted to find something that would contribute towards advocacy for animals. And I can get into that how that relates to my work, but obviously my channel is called The Vegan and my blog is called The Vegan. I post vegan recipes, and that is my form of activism. But in terms of career, I wanted to incorporate something that had a lot of the passions that I had, that I discovered that I had at Ottawa. So I did my translation degree here, and it was French and English translation. It was a lot of writing, it was a lot of research, and it was really kind of interesting because translation is, as a program, was something that was more than just here's how to do, here's how to write in French, here's how to write in English. It was more like how does this culture express itself in one language or another, and that was something that I kind of carried into my life goals and career goals. And so when I learned about culture here, I kind of figured out that I wanted something that was creative and that I could be creative in. And in terms of what position or what career I wanted something that was challenging, that I could come into work every day and it's not the same clicking, typing, and random data entry kind of stuff, which I have done to get to where I am today. I wanted something that incorporated photography, which is something that I explored here in the beautiful campus of Ottawa. And I wanted something that was flexible enough to allow me to pursue goals outside of my career, practical marketing, but also do something that I could do on the side, which was the vegan. I'm what they call a workaholic, so whenever I finish work, I work again on my second job. And it's something that I really kind of discovered was something here. When I was finishing school, I would finish my class and coursework, and I would go work for Foot Patrol, which is one of the services here at Ottawa. I was always working, and if I wasn't working, I was volunteering. And if I wasn't volunteering, I was doing stuff on my blog. So the position that I have at Practical Marketing is a marketing coordinator, and I basically do all the things that I used to do on my blog, but then I get paid for it. It's pretty awesome. So it's a lot of social media, which is changing every day. I do social media posts, I take photos, I create content, I engage with communities, and that's something that what I learned from translation, understanding people, understanding culture, is something that I apply to social media, because that's all it is. You're talking to people, and you want to connect with people, and how do you do that? Language and all that. That pretty much was that.
Perfect, thank you. Now, listening to the answer, we get the sense of a Renaissance woman, a true interdisciplinarian. What fields or what field, and I won't ask you an area if you don't want to, that you feel that you most excel at? And what are your strengths that you find or that help you? Touch on a few of them in your previous answer, but strengths that really help you move through the career path that you've set for yourself now.
So a lot of things that you'll find when you're launching yourself off into the real world is that to find a job nowadays, you have to be good at everything. And if you're not good at everything, you have to go get experience. In order to get experience, you have to have experience to get that. It's very cyclical and it's very confusing. And when you say field, it's hard to say because it's the things that I wrote down were people/community, photography, writing, and food. And so all this kind of boiled down to understanding culture and people. And that is something that, as I mentioned, for translation, you have to understand people to understand how to speak to them in a way that they understand you. So I found out my strength actually in my job. I didn't realize, it was a part-time job when I first started at Practical Marketing. I just finished my master's. I was thinking about doing a PhD in translation. And I had stumbled upon this marketing job because this person had found me through my blog to do a sponsored post for one of their clients. And I asked her, do you want me to do a photo for Pinterest, or what kind of hashtag do you want me to use for Twitter? And the person on the phone, who was currently my boss, she was kind of like, I don't know what you're talking about. And this was 2012. So these are things that were kind of prevalent back then, but it's a lot more well known now. And it's kind of interesting to see how far things have changed. So my strength, I guess, would be my thirst for knowledge. As corny and cliche as that sounds, working on my blog, that's a lot of hours that I spent unpaid, tinkering on HTML, looking at how to best strategize social media, what kind of hashtags, how to do social media posts on Twitter within 140 characters that really speak to a person. So, in essence, the field that I'm good at is learning.
Being adaptive and
Yeah.
applying your strengths to
Being
different situations.
open-minded and just kind of like seeing what's out there, and things are always changing. How can I change with it? How can I make this better or make myself better?
Which is a nice segue into my third question for you. And it might be, I think it's a difficult question because we're asking you to pinpoint something. But is there something, a learning moment, someone, an event along the way through your schooling and learning moments that made the difference in helping you to be the successful person that you are?
A lot of it had something to do with what you mentioned about humility and kind of, grounding yourself and, understanding that you don't know everything and you'll never know everything about anything, and being open-minded to all of that is really what sets you up for learning and, being at the right moment and being in the right place at the right time. Because I got my job out of pure luck, and I happened to, because I was lucky enough to be in that spot, but I had the skills and the knowledge and the experience and the passion for marketing and social media to get into what I wanted to do. And that was like, you can go to school and you can learn about all this stuff, but you can't teach passion. You can't learn that from a classroom. You have to find that for yourself. And, your profs will try to give you as many opportunities for you to find your passion and to turn your passion into something good for, whatever career that you want. But ultimately, that's in your hands. So, humility, being open-minded, making genuine connections. So when I was here at Ottawa, I didn't just go to class and just go home. I volunteered for Foot Patrol. I spent, I think when I calculated the hours again, I think it was like almost 1,000 hours that I volunteered. It's a lot of time. And through that time, I was walking people home. I was meeting other people. I was making all these connections. And through the Student Federation of the University of Ottawa, I met a bunch of people who led me to my career today. One of the people is in this room, Professor Elena. In my class, I studied Spanish syntax, and that wasn't even something that I was in translation. It didn't really, it was sort of connected to linguistics, but not really. It was just something that I was really interested in, and I really liked her class because she was so pumped about syntax, and it was awesome. And that sort of passion kind of made me think she really likes syntax trees. That's really cool. I like syntax trees. What can I do with this passion, or how can I turn what I like doing into my, career? My relation to Professor Elena about syntax trees led on to us just talking about, how to get into a master's, and she was one of my references. And so, I got into a master's because of Professor Elena, and then from my master's, I moved to Toronto. I, was in the right place at the right time because of all these different connections I had made. So, talk to your profs when you're in class. Don't just go to class and go home. Sit in the front row, be that nerd, because the nerds make the connections with the profs. They talk to people and they understand, here's how you get from A to B to C to get to the career you want. That's like, letter Z down there. And being true to yourself. So I studied translation. I not only did a bachelor's, I also did a master's in translation. So everyone expected me to go into translation. And I learned in my second year, when I was about to write my thesis, that I didn't love it enough. I really enjoyed translation. It was really interesting. It was challenging, but it wasn't for me. But I learned, sorry, that was really loud. I'm so sorry. But I learned a lot about the world and applied all that knowledge. So I don't regret my master's, but that's all that knowledge I applied to my career today. So being open-minded, seizing the opportunity to learn, talking to people, making connections, and just being true to yourself.
Thank you very much. I'd like you to join Ian on the stage if you'd like. Et j'inviterai maintenant Madame Martine Ménard à se joindre à nous. Si vous installez. Alors, avant de vous installer, je vais vous présenter. Alors, Madame Martine Ménard occupe le poste de directrice générale communication d'entreprise à CBC Radio-Canada depuis 2001. Madame Ménard a plus de 25 ans d'expérience dans le domaine des communications stratégiques, du marketing, de la promotion et de la gestion de l'image de marque et réputation d'entreprise. In addition, Ms. Minard provides ongoing communication advice to the president and senior management team on matters impacting the corporation. Her portfolio responsibilities include issues management, stakeholder relations, social media, public relations and outreach, there's more, branding, writing and publication services, web and digital services, translation, internal employee communications, and the day-to-day management of the enterprise communication team, which has 30 employees, located in Ottawa, Montreal, and Toronto. Elle a complété ses études au département d'études anciennes ici à l'université. Bienvenue.
Donc, bonsoir et merci beaucoup pour l'invitation. C'est tellement un grand plaisir de pouvoir me retrouver sur le campus. J'avais même des papillons quand je suis arrivée en marchant. Très jalouse que vous soyez encore aux études parce que c'est quelque chose qui me manque encore beaucoup à ce jour. J'aimerais saluer Suzanne Morris, qui est une ancienne collègue à moi de CBC Radio-Canada et qui est membre du bureau du gouverneur de l'université ici. J'ai fait une retrouvaille aussi, une collègue de l'école secondaire de la Serre, Véronique Bernard, qui est aussi une amie, qui travaille également à l'Université d'Ottawa. Alors, j'ai bien hâte de jaser avec toi, Véronique, après la présentation. Donc, mon parcours professionnel a débuté plus de 30 ans passés. C'est pour ça que j'ai dû mettre sur papier mon cheminement de carrière. C'est quand même, pour moi, je pense que vous allez vite conclure que mon parcours universitaire et mon cheminement de carrière n'est pas nécessairement aligné. Mais une chose certaine, c'est qu'à ce jour, les aptitudes et compétences que j'ai acquises lors de mon expérience universitaire, parce que comme Lisa le dit, c'est pas juste l'expérience dans les cours, c'est vraiment toute l'expérience universitaire, ont beaucoup influencé les opportunités de travail qui m'ont été présentées. Alors, je pense que ma première question.
Oui, je vais vous la poser. La première question, c'est de nous parler de votre parcours depuis l'Université d'Ottawa.
C'est ça. Alors, tout de suite après ma graduation, j'étais un peu confuse. Je n'étais pas certaine de mon orientation à long terme. Ce que je savais, c'est que l'enseignement n'était pas nécessairement pour moi. Alors, j'ai vraiment décidé de partir à l'aventure. Ce que j'ai fait, et puis encore aujourd'hui, je considère que mon cheminement professionnel, c'est une aventure. Mon premier emploi a été avec l'agence Parcours Canada, ici à Ottawa, division de recherche et d'interprétation historique. Et mes tâches comprenaient l'élaboration de programmes de promotion, de communication et d'éducation pour le public afin de leur faire découvrir l'histoire et l'intérêt culturel des sites historiques au pays. Je pense que vous allez dire, c'est quand même un peu relié à la formation universitaire, mais moi, ce qui m'a vraiment, la piqûre que j'ai eue quand je me suis joint à Parcours Canada, où j'ai vraiment accroché, c'est le niveau de communication. La possibilité de pouvoir raconter des histoires, de partager des faits et du contenu de façon créative à un public vaste et varié. C'est là que j'ai accroché et suite à mon expérience avec Parcours Canada, j'ai décidé de continuer à parcourir ma carrière au sein des communications. J'ai surtout pu décrocher des positions à contrat. J'ai travaillé avec la division des communications et affaires publiques à la Commission de la capitale nationale, tout dans le cadre de la gestion des différents festivals, et pour plusieurs années à la ville d'Ottawa, où j'ai travaillé pendant plusieurs années dans des services très variés, soit la division des activités communautaires, division des communications, pour enfin aboutir au cabinet du maire à titre de conseillère en communication. Donc, beaucoup d'opportunités très variées au sein de la ville. Par la suite, j'ai accepté un poste à la fonction publique avec le groupe Communication Canada, qui était un département rattaché au ministère des Travaux publics. Ce groupe-là n'existe plus, mais qui avait pour mandat de développer et promouvoir le commerce extérieur du Canada en aidant les entreprises canadiennes à profiter des débouchés offerts sur le marché international. Donc vraiment un milieu tout à fait que j'ignorais, mais qui me semblait comme un très beau défi. Alors dans cette merveilleuse aventure, j'ai eu la chance d'enrichir mon expérience au niveau international avec des projets en Asie, en Amérique du Sud, en Europe et aux États-Unis. Mon rôle était d'appuyer les entreprises canadiennes dans la promotion de leurs produits et expertise dans différents marchés à travers le monde. Donc, vraiment, de les appuyer au niveau de la recherche pour pouvoir développer des plans de promotion et de marketing très ciblés pour pouvoir aider à exporter leurs produits. Ensuite, après cette expérience-là, j'ai fait un saut dans le monde de la politique. Je n'étais pas du tout une bête politique. Quelqu'un est venu cogner à ma porte. C'était un poste qui devait être vraiment intérimaire. Je n'ai pas pu dire non. C'était le poste de directeur de communication pour le ministre responsable des Travaux publics. Et l'idée était vraiment que c'était pour être sur une base temporaire, mais 4 ans plus tard, j'étais toujours avec ce même ministre qui a accepté de nouvelles fonctions au sein de Santé Canada, où j'ai continué dans le rôle de directeur de communication pour ensuite être promue à son chef de cabinet. Donc, encore là, vraiment l'aventure. C'est sûr que dans le poste de chef de cabinet, j'ai eu l'opportunité d'enrichir toutes mes connaissances côté toutes les actualités très complexes, mon sens des relations humaines, la diplomatie et l'importance de la rigueur dans le traitement de tous les dossiers. J'ai quitté la fonction publique, j'avais le goût d'aller vivre l'expérience dans le secteur privé, alors ce que j'ai fait, j'ai accepté le poste de gestionnaire principal pour une boîte de communication dont le siège social était basé à Montréal. Alors c'était une boîte de communication clé en main, avec une équipe de 15 spécialistes en communication qui desservaient tous les besoins de communication et marketing de clients du secteur privé, mais surtout du secteur public. Et c'est en 2001, encore une fois, la chance est venue à ma porte et j'ai été offerte l'opportunité de me joindre à l'équipe des communications de CBC Radio-Canada à titre de première directrice pour les communications institutionnelles en faisant une progression de carrière au poste que j'occupe aujourd'hui. C'est vraiment le poste ultime pour mettre en pratique les compétences que j'ai réussi à acquérir tout au long de ma carrière. Mes fonctions ont déjà été décrites. La gestion d'une équipe d'une trentaine d'experts en communication basés à Ottawa, Montréal et Toronto. Et c'est sûr que si vous êtes intéressé dans le monde de la radiodiffusion, de la transformation, surtout au niveau numérique, la gestion d'enjeux, la gestion de crise, la mobilisation des employés, on est occupé, c'est un défi à chaque jour, on ne sait pas ce qui nous attend, mais c'est ça aussi qui rend le travail aussi intéressant. Alors ça, grosso modo, c'est les 30 ans de carrière à date.
On voit déjà des fils qui se tissent en tes réponses, donc d'être ouvert à l'occasion qui se présente. Une deuxième question pour vous. Comment avez-vous vécu vos premières recherches d'emploi?
C'est pas quelque chose qui a été nécessairement facile. Il y a eu des moments difficiles, parfois même des moments décourageants, surtout que je n'étais pas fait d'idée fixe de mes aspirations au niveau de ma carrière, mais j'ai gardé le moral, j'ai gardé la confiance. Comme l'a dit Lisa, I was true to myself. C'est sûr que j'avais eu des emplois à temps partiel. J'ai travaillé au Centre national des arts tout au long de mes études. Donc, le domaine des arts, le domaine de la communication, c'était déjà un domaine qui avait piqué ma curiosité. Je savais que j'avais un penchant pour ce secteur-là. Puis j'étais convaincue qu'il y avait un emploi pour moi. C'est sûr que j'ai préparé toute la liste de mes principaux champs d'intérêt. J'ai identifié mes compétences, mes points forts, j'ai maximisé tous mes contacts, tant au niveau du milieu universitaire, du milieu du travail. J'ai maximisé toutes les ressources qui sont à notre disponibilité. J'ai exploré les différentes pistes d'emploi, soit qui sont affichées sur les sites web, dans les journaux, les revues. C'est sûr qu'avec les réseaux sociaux maintenant, c'est définitivement un bassin qui donne beaucoup d'opportunités. Mais vraiment, je pense que la plupart des gens n'ont pas une carrière parfaitement linéaire. Le chemin peut être tortueux avant d'arriver où on souhaite arriver. J'y suis arrivée et puis je suis certaine que vous allez faire de même. Mais il faut se donner la chance de vraiment trouver la passion et le parcours qu'on souhaite suivre.
ça sort peut-être de l'aventure. Hein? Si on est présent dans l'aventure, peut-être qu'on va être ouvert à ce qui va nous arriver. Il y a quelques semaines, on a eu la collation des grades d'automne. On a des étudiants dans la salle, on a des nouveaux diplômés et peut-être même des diplômés un peu moins nouveaux. Quel conseil est-ce que vous partageriez avec les gens ici ou les gens qui vont les regarder à un autre moment?
Je pense que premièrement, c'est de vraiment jouir de votre parcours universitaire, de ne pas le prendre pour acquis. Parce que ce n'est pas nécessairement une chance qui revient à tout le monde. Je pense que c'est de rester flexible et ouvert d'esprit, être prêt aussi à essayer de nouvelles choses, à prendre des risques, parce que j'ai pris beaucoup de risques. Actuellement, pour chaque poste, j'étais là pour une durée de peut-être 3 ans, 4 ans, les gens me disaient, mais qu'est-ce que tu fais? Tu es folle, tu as un bon poste, reste là, bouge pas. Mais il fallait que je bouge. Puis même aussi, si parfois ce risque-là, justement, n'est pas nécessairement aligné avec le parcours universitaire. Pour moi, ça m'a beaucoup rapporté. C'est de maximiser chaque opportunité aussi pour apprendre, continuer d'apprendre, continuer à se développer et découvrir. C'est naturellement, surtout aujourd'hui, c'est de rester à jour avec toutes les technologies. Dans mon parcours universitaire, les réseaux sociaux, ça existait très peu, ça n'existait pas. Tandis qu'aujourd'hui, dans mon quotidien, c'est à la seconde. Alors, c'est important de se garder vraiment rester à jour avec toutes les technologies, une nouvelle façon de communiquer, de partager et de mobiliser. Travailler aussi sur vos soft, ce que j'appelle les soft skills. Communication, le travail en équipe, la motivation, la créativité et trouver des solutions aux défis. La gestion du temps et la capacité de travailler sous pression. Le lieu de travail aussi est en constante évolution, de même que les besoins des organisations. Je pense que c'est plus important que jamais que vous alliez chercher le plus d'expérience possible. Et ça, le mentionner aussi. Quand on est à la recherche d'emploi ou quand on embauche, parce que j'embauche quand même déjà, les attentes, c'est vraiment très, très élevé. Que ce soit du bénévolat, que ce soit des opportunités d'échange. C'est pas nécessaire que ce soit des postes payants, mais si vous avez ces opportunités-là pour commencer à bâtir votre bagage, certainement à titre d'employeur, c'est quelque chose que l'on recherche beaucoup.
Merci beaucoup, Maxime. Alors, je vous inviterai à prendre votre place sur la salle. Let's give them a first round of applause. So we'll now enter into a speed round. The speed applies to the shortness of the question, not to the speed at which you have to answer them. Alors, je vais lancer des questions et avant d'ouvrir à la salle, je vais dire la question en français puis en anglais. You answer if you want. You answer in the language of your choice. And the questions are for all three of you, but again, feel free to answer the question or not. Okay. So the first question, qu'est-ce que signifie l'ère numérique pour vous? What does the digital age mean to you? Whoever wants to go first.
Information, content, and speed.
Speed.
Yeah, so from a human resources perspective, it means a lot of different things, I think. So from my perspective, even just the way that we meet candidates for jobs has changed fundamentally from where it used to be. So building the brand is really, really, really important for everyone, regardless of what industry you're in. When we see a resume come in with the same old boring font and the same old sort of, standard corporate cover letter, that's probably not going to wow us. If someone comes to us with an awesome video resume, showing us the portfolio of work that they've done that's all online, that's going to blow us away, right? So I think from a human resources perspective, it's changed absolutely everything. And it's leveled the playing field as well for people that maybe don't necessarily have the funds to go to university. People that are self-taught now, those skills, they have a mechanism to get that to us and really have a voice.
I guess the digital age for me would be understanding that you know, there's so many more ways to connect with people, and that way you need to focus more on what makes you unique and what makes you communicate better. So like I think when I think of it like Twitter or Instagram or any of those social medias, they all have a specific purpose and they all serve a specific function. You'll reach different people with different kind of ways. And in the digital world for work, you have to be able to communicate with all of those different people depending on what you're selling, what you're doing, even communicating yourself. I feel like everyone has Twitter account, or everyone has Facebook, or everyone has Instagram, but the way that you portray yourself matters in your job field.
And I think just to build on that, it's opportunity. There's so much more opportunity now to connect with people, to communicate with people, and to be creative. As opposed to back in the days where we had something to communicate, we issue a press release. Whether now, we still do, but it's, you know, on the list of 10 things we have to do, it's number 10. And it's to be able to be creative as well on how we communicate that content. It doesn't have to be just text. It can be graphics. The platforms allow for that. So it's opportunity as well. We hear a lot about risks when we talk about the digital age. We hear a lot about transformation. We hear a lot about change. It always seems that there's always a very negative connotation. And it is very challenging, but it's also about opportunity.
Prochaine question. Comment est-ce que les relations de travail ont-elles changé à l'ère numérique? How do work relations change in the digital age?
Do you mean like work in terms of, sorry,
Like the way, even, you know, I'm just thinking of, does everybody work in the same office spaces at the same time? So how does the relationships between people in a shared workspace, how has that changed between, you know, 10, 15 years ago and 2016 and going forward?
right. So, I mean, I'm 26, I'm not very old, and I've experienced, you know, the various different types of workforces. So I used to work for one of the government agencies here, the Canadian Bureau for International Education, and I was a data entry clerk. I had my own cubicle, and I clicked a lot. I clicked 8 hours a day, and that was my job. And we had meetings about meetings about meetings. And that was one kind of way of, like, the old school, I guess, media. And so now, very differently. I work mostly remotely from home, or if I have shoots, I go on location to do a photo shoot. I'm also a food photographer. That's not in the title, but that's like 30% of my job. Anyway, so I work remotely from home, and being able to connect to the internet and being able to share content with my coworkers, we're a team of 4, being able to do that online from home in my pajamas is pretty awesome. And it allows us to be more efficient in terms of the amount of work that we can deliver. I don't have to spend gas, I don't have to spend time commuting to an office necessarily, and I can better focus my time on engaging with people on social media. I feel like I'm just rehashing social media, like that's like the majority of my job. Or connecting with other clients through email or on the phone. It just being able to work remotely or because of the technologies now has enabled us to be more accessible as employees, which can be a great thing and not a great thing because I work until 2 o'clock in the morning a lot, and that's just the nature of the job.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. I mean, I've worked in a very traditional bricks and mortar type setting, which was alternative savings, and everybody had a cubicle, and nobody worked from home pretty much in the entire company, I don't think. But it's interesting. I've worked at 2 tech companies now, and you would think that working from home would be very encouraged, and that would be sort of the norm. It's actually not. In most technology companies, you'll hear the phrase, you want to see the whites of people's eyes. And there is still that importance of having people collaborate in sort of a face-to-face way. With that said, I think the fact that we are able to work from home if we absolutely have to, if we've got a fridge being delivered, it makes it so much more convenient. And certainly technology in terms of things like how many people use Google Docs, for example. It's amazing. Rather than just having a Microsoft Word document that I need to send to so-and-so, and then so-and-so edits it and sends it back, you can actually collaborate in real time on the internet all at the same time. So I think there's lots of technology that's made it a lot easier for people to collaborate electronically, but I do think that it's still very important, no matter what industry you're in, to have people collaborate as much as possible. And We do have employees that are remote. We've got salespeople throughout the United States. So obviously they're not going to be in the office every single day, but we do really make an effort to have them come at least once a quarter so that they're collaborating with the other people in the office, they're getting to know those people and understanding how everybody works. And I think, we shouldn't throw out the old way of doing things completely, but certainly there's advances from the digital age.
Chez nous, à Radio-Canada, c'est sûr qu'on maximise beaucoup les technologies pour les rencontres, surtout qu'on a des employés partout à travers le pays. Donc, on favorise beaucoup le Google Hangout, surtout quand c'est des petites équipes, vidéoconférences, appels téléphoniques. Pour ma petite équipe ici à Ottawa, malheureusement, souvent le courriel prend beaucoup trop d'importance. Puis, au lieu de prendre le temps d'aller rencontrer le collègue qui est à 2 pas, on s'en va des courriels. Alors maintenant, les vendredis, ma petite équipe, personne n'a le droit personne, j'exagère, mais on essaie de minimiser la communication entre les groupes par courriel pour que les gens prennent le temps de se déplacer et aller se rencontrer. On a aussi créé des petites salles de rencontre justement pour favoriser la face-à-face. C'est certain que pour pouvoir rejoindre les employés à travers le pays, que la technologie, ça nous aide. C'est tout à fait un atout.
Je vais combiner 2 questions pour la prochaine question. Dans le système scolaire, on utilise maternelle à 12e année, on dit beaucoup aux enseignants, aux futurs enseignants, if you can Google it, you shouldn't teach it. Parlez-nous un peu de la tension entre l'importance de connaissances particulières vis-à-vis de la maîtrise de certaines compétences quand vous pensez à des futurs employés. So if you can talk a little bit about the tension between the need for specific knowledge versus the need for competencies that can be transversal or not. There's a lot of knowledge, how do you access it, but that tension between what do you need to know, or is it more how can you act and what can you do, and I can teach you what you need to know. So you can address that a bit in the digital age now.
So, as I mentioned, I work in marketing. I didn't do a marketing degree, I did a translation degree. And a lot of the skills that I learned from translation can be applied to marketing, but when I first met my employer, her name is Nicole, I'm on Nicole now. So when I first met Nicole, she acknowledged the fact that I had a master's. She's like, it doesn't really matter. What I can tell is that you can write, you have a good head on your shoulders, and you're open to learning. And so she's kind of been my mentor, and she's kind of taken me under her wing and taught me all the different aspects, how to talk to clients, how to do reporting. When you do group projects in school, you're like, why do I have to present this? This is dumb. I don't want to do this. And I learned very quickly that it is a very good skill to have, because when you report the results to a client, then you're like, okay, I like what you're doing, I will pay you. And that is a very good skill, everyone likes being paid. So in terms of understanding how to make a PowerPoint is one thing versus, do you really need to be that person, the closer when it comes to clients, or do you need would it be more efficient that you learn all the different aspects of accomplishing the job that goes into reporting later on?
Yeah, I agree with everything, and I think it really depends on the job that you're doing, right? I mean, if you're an aerospace engineer or if you're a brain surgeon, you better know what you're doing before you enter that job, for sure. But 9 times out of 10, I think most jobs these days, if you have that sort of desire to learn and you have sort of a baseline level of knowledge, you're probably going to be okay. And I think when we're looking for employees, we're not necessarily looking for the person with the perfect grade point average. We're looking for the person that loves to think about how things exist and how they can make things better and those sort of competencies that you speak to. So I think definitely that desire to learn competency is super important in any role that you're in. But it definitely does depend which job you're in.
Oui, je suis d'accord, moi aussi, avec tout ce qui a été dit à date. C'est sûr que nous autres, pour moi, personnellement, une compétence que je recherche aussi, surtout à la numérique, c'est la capacité d'analyse, parce qu'on est bombardé de contenu. Alors, quelqu'un qui a l'esprit critique, qui est capable aussi de prioriser au niveau du contenu que l'on gère, c'est vraiment clé. La rédaction, comme ça a déjà été mentionné, la capacité de recherche, aussi, c'est extrêmement nécessaire. Et puis la pensée stratégique, de voir aussi, d'avoir la vision, de voir plus loin que le quotidien. Donc, pour moi, ce sont des compétences
going to add as well that, you know, there are companies out there that they will literally, you know, Shopify being one of them, for example, where you go in for the first interview, they actively tell you, we didn't even look at your resume. We want to know what kind of person you are. We want to know if you're a fit for the organization. And I think that companies that do care about, you know, hiring for fit generally do better as well. So that's an important factor as well.
And I guess the fit works both ways. I tell sometimes when I meet people are going for interviews, I remind them that they're not the only people being interviewed, they are also interviewing the potential employers. Throwing that in on a speaker. Vous n'êtes pas des, je n'ai pas des clairvoyants, mais si vous aviez identifié peut-être certains métiers qui vont s'ouvrir prochainement ou des changements qui se font dans les métiers, particulièrement à l'ère numérique, ou des endroits peut-être qu'on ne penserait pas de chercher si on était diplômé d'une faculté des arts, ça serait quoi? So I know you're not you're not a clairvoyant, but if you have any ideas or suggestions to see sort of what are the emerging trends or fields or domains that could be of interest for faculty of arts graduates to look into, to not necessarily discount, what would you identify as some of those fields?
So I guess I feel like I'm just a broken record. Marketing. So I mean, nowadays you have all the this culture of consumerism and capitalism. Everyone's trying to sell something, and you know, in the digital age, everyone is talking and everyone is saying something and want to be heard. So you know, a field that I never expected to go into was marketing. I hated selling stuff. I hated retail. I never thought I would be here, but here I am. And honestly, what I do, I am a creative. I create content. I create copy. I create pictures. I create brands. So creativity in arts is like, you know, anyone can have an arts. Like you can study anything with an arts degree. The point is that you're well-rounded and you can apply that knowledge to business, to like teaching, to marketing. There's so many different emerging fields nowadays, but like I feel like the thing that I see the most right now is marketing. Everyone is going into social media content, how to use Snapchat, how to use Instagram, how to use the internet. Everyone knows how to code these days. So yeah.
I think something that comes to mind, and it's something that we lived at City Science Canada not that long ago, because we have been going through a major transformation, but it's to help change manage, to help, or manage change rather, to help manage change, and it's really an expertise. I think we had obviously a lot of people with great ideas as far as what the vision for City Science Canada should be and why. We had a lot of great people, you know, ready to communicate what that was all about. But for our employees that were also adapting to all of this change, just the support that they required in order to make that change as quickly and even faster than the pace that we were at. I think for us, I think that in the market right now, it's probably, it should be a high demand, and I'm not sure that we're churning, you know, the kind of, I guess, professions that I think are required for any organization that is trying to keep up with the pace of change.
Yeah, I think from my perspective, starting out your career, a really good way to go about it is to figure out what industries you want to work in. What are your favorite companies? What kind of things do you do in your spare time? Because you know, as a history grad, for example, there are only so many people that are going to become history profs, but there are tons of jobs out there that have an element of history in it. So you know, marketing is a good example. You know, City Hall, they do things all the time where they have marketing displays. So you're combining the knowledge of history with marketing. I think you know, being on top of sort of the latest trends when it comes to technology are super important as well. If you put on your resume, you know, I'm great at Microsoft Word, you know, 93 or something, people are probably going to laugh you out of the building. So make sure that people know that you're up on current technological trends. I do think that, you know, in some ways, to get that first job, you may have to compromise a little bit as well. I think a lot of people coming out of school, especially business students, they think they're going to walk right into $100,000 a year jobs. I know almost no one that does that. You're going to have to put in your lumps first. But just always keeping in the back of your mind what your end goal is, what industry you want to work in, and you know, going out and meeting the people in that space, right? You know, working at a company where we hire pretty much exclusively people in the STEM disciplines, I would say that you know, for art students, it would help to have, you know, one foot in that field as well, and just be on top of those current trends. What I see a lot is, you know, we have people who maybe they took, you know, history or in university, or they took, you know, literature. They work for us in marketing, but on the side they have a blog, you know, whether it's, you know, a finance blog or whatever it is. So you don't necessarily have to just have your day job. You can also do your passion projects on the side, which maybe will relate to your arts background.
So, as you mentioned, like having your passion projects, like there's a saying that like everyone, you're not going to be good at everything, but you're going to be good at one thing. And if you find out what that one thing is, I found it I was procrastinating studying for exams by looking at pictures of food. And, you know, that led towards what I am, like, who I am today. I managed to make a job out of what I procrastinated my life with. I wanted to find out how to code a website, or make a visual recipe index, or how to format a recipe in my blog post in a pleasing way. And apparently people pay you to do that. So, you know, that's something, like the possibilities are endless in the digital age. Anything that you think that you could do, there's probably someone out there doing that job. And if you do the research, you look, hey, I want to, you know, also do Mad Men type stuff, find agencies, intern for them, talk to people, and most people are very willing to help you learn. Talk to your professors. A lot of them work or continually work in fields that you are interested in, and most professors, if not all, want to help you succeed. So talk to them, figure out what you like doing, and find out how to do it.
Last question, and it's not on my list of suggested questions, so I'm going a bit low. We talked about marketing, we talked about branding, we talked about how is important, no, go back a step. How is, and you also talked about being authentic to yourself, knowing myself. Some people of my age have problems with the word brand and branding because they think of cattle, or they think of, you know, the Sears catalog or something. But should we actually be thinking of ourselves, you know, what is my brand? What do I stand for? What are my values? What are my competencies? And as a way, so is that idea of thinking in terms of my brand, but not necessarily in a marketing way, but in the how do I sell? Or how do I let people know everything that I'm good at? How important is that? Dans les conférences, on est capable de transmettre aux autres nos compétences, nos valeurs, nos talents. À quel point est-ce que c'est important, ça?
So when it comes down to it, know what you value. And for me, I valued something that was authentic. I wanted to work for a company that with, like, you know, with products I actually believed in. I wanted to work for a company that would enable me to advocate on behalf of animals. So I have taken photos for vegan companies to encourage people to be like, look how delicious this faux chicken stir fry is, and things like that. Like so for me, I don't want to work for someone who is false, or who just kind of talks out of their insert explicit word here. You know, like I wanted something authentic, or something that I believed in. I'm a very blunt person, and I wanted to work for a company that was blunt, but also genuine. So when you are branding yourself, you're basically saying, this is who I am, this is the kind of work that I want to do. I want to do work that fulfills me, that changes the world, but, you know, makes me want to wake up and go on the computer and click and stuff. Those are what your brands are, and if you stay true to that, you'll naturally find people and work that will enable you to shine. So lame, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I think, you know, branding yourself, as weird as that sounds, it is super important, because when you're, you know, we get thousands of resumes, we meet thousands of people at career fairs every year. Really, we want to know, in sort of a nutshell, what are you all about? What value are you going to bring to our company? And I think the concept of an elevator pitch, so that 30-second sort of, this is what I am, is so important. Because, you know, if someone comes and talks to us at a career fair booth and you know, starts rambling on about nothing for 5 minutes, Even if they're the brightest person in the world, that's not going to shine through, right? So we really want to know, who are you, what's your background, and what do you value? And I think, that concept of the elevator pitch is super important.
Au quotidien, nous autres, notre responsabilité, c'est de protéger et de promouvoir la marque de CBC Radio-Canada. Alors, si à titre d'employé, on n'a pas nos propres valeurs, ou on ne considère pas que justement que notre propre réputation d'image n'est pas importante, c'est un problème. Je pense aussi qu'en début de carrière, parce que le bagage professionnel, naturellement, commence juste à se développer, c'est correct de puiser dans le personnel, dans le côté personnel pour décrire qui on est, nos intérêts, nos aspirations. Je pense qu'à titre d'employeur, c'est quelque chose que l'on respecte, puis on apprend à connaître l'individu, même si le bagage professionnel, naturellement, est à développer.
Parfait. Alors, merci beaucoup pour la grande éclair. Et maintenant, c'est à votre tour. So our guests will kindly take questions from the audience. I'm not sure about how a microphone works for questions from the audience, or if you just project well, or we'll walk the mic back and forth. Okay. We have a question here in the middle.
Because I found it I found your information very, very useful. My question is, sorry, I forgot your name, Ian?
Yeah.
How do you actually connect arts with human resources?
That's a really good question. How did I connect arts to human resources, I guess? For me, it was a little bit interesting. So I started out in history because I was really interested in history, and I thought maybe I could be a history prof, I could work for Parcours Canada or something like that. As I got more into it, so my dad, full disclosure, my dad is a history buff, but also an accounting prof who taught accounting for 30 years. So about 3/4 of the way through my degree, I realized history is probably not going to be my career. So I went into, I became a bank teller in hopes of getting into an accounting department. So that's where I started at Alterna. I got into the accounting department, and then I very quickly realized that I loved the aspect of the job where I was helping people, but I didn't so much like the aspect where I was crunching numbers all the time. I was up for a promotion where I was essentially going to have no contact with anybody else in the organization. I was going to be behind a door making calculations. And that's where I started to think about, okay, I love business, I love dealing with people, I love seeing the broader context of the organization, but also how the organization fits within the community. And I think that came from probably my arts background. And so I started sort of reading through, at St. Louis College, I started reading through the campus guide of what you could look into in business, and HR just popped right off the page. And so I think HR, similar to arts, you really have to look at things critically. There is no black and white like there is in, there's not black and white in anything to do with arts, right? With history, it's very subjective, So I think there was a lot of similarities there that I really latched on to.
Une autre question? En arrière de la salle.
I would like to ask for a tip or two on how to promote my work on social media without exactly turning myself into a celebrity, because we do have this connection of you have to be this celebrity person to make success using Instagram or Twitter or even marketing social media. How do I communicate my work, not exactly my personal beliefs as how I dress or anything like that?
Sure.
So this is kind of interesting because I started out as my brand, I guess. It was just Livia Vegan. And I guess the thing is, when you are a person on Twitter and you're engaging with people, that's the beauty of social media. You can connect with brands one-on-one without having to talk to a manager and then talking to another manager and stuff like that. So if you, say for example, you're interested in news or something, and you follow all these different news outlets, when you respond to them in a way that's genuine to you, and not just you being like, here's all the things that I know about whatever story this is, if you're engaging as a person, like, and someone, when you're applying for a job, and someone looks at your feed and they see the responses that you have are genuine responses that echo your values, they echo things that you're interested in. These are all things that kind of contribute to who you are, not necessarily as a brand, as a celebrity, but as a person, because everyone Googles everyone nowadays. And if you have your own blog and if you write about these different topics, you don't have to be super well known. You don't have to have thousands of page views, but it's out there and you're expressing yourself and you are engaging in the digital world. You don't necessarily have to have someone talk back to you, but it's out there. And if someone's gonna look at your resume and be like, I want to know what this person is all about, they do a quick Google and they stumble upon your blog and you talk about exactly what that company is for, then that's a really good thing.
Do you have anything to add? Yeah. Oh, sorry.
From a business perspective, whenever we try to promote a new project initiative within CBC Radio-Canada, we always try to pitch the angle of how are we contributing to Canadians as opposed to, this is all about CBC Radio-Canada. We want them to reach the conclusion that we bring value to their lives without saying it. So that's always our approach when we basically launch a social media campaign strategy or even responding to a tweet or whatever. We always think about their perspective or what do we bring to their lives. And at the end of the day, they will reach the conclusion that we are meaningful, we're relevant, and we're important to their day-to-day.
Yeah, so I think because the nature of work has changed a lot, like whether it's a visual designer, whether it's a marketing person, a graphic designer, those types of roles where you have a portfolio of stuff that you've worked on yourself and you want companies to see that or potential clients to see that, I think you always start by sort of focusing on what kind of companies do I want to work with and what sort of clients do I want to have. And pick a few, right? Don't have it so broad that it's 500 different companies. Really focus in on what are those specific companies that you really enjoy, that you feel you align with from a values perspective, from a brand perspective, all that sort of stuff. And approach them with sort of humbleness, right? We get all the time someone saying, here's my portfolio, all the stuff I've worked on, isn't it so great, kind of thing. You need to understand that the people that you're trying to convince that you should work for them, they're the experts, right? So, when you approach them, ask them, it would be really great, I would really appreciate it if you could provide me some feedback. I know that maybe you don't have any openings right now, but I'd really like you to consider, my work in the future. Going at it from that angle, it sort of diffuses any sort of tension that there might be, because as a recruiter on the back end, as a sort of hiring manager on the back end, they're going to see a lot of different people's work, and there are a lot of people as well that sort of, and you should think highly of the work that you do, you should be proud of the work that you do, but approaching it from the perspective that, I don't really have a lot of skin in the game in terms of years of experience and things like that, I want to learn from you, what can you do to help me? 9 times out of 10, those companies, they're more likely to take a flyer on you than if they see that you sort of come in with arrogance or that sort of mentality.
Another question.
Est-ce qu'il y a une autre question? Oh, on a 2 questions, 3 questions. OK, alors on va commencer tout à fait en arrière, ensuite la dame dans l'avant-dernière rangée et ensuite on viendra ici.
Ma question s'adresse à Mme Ménard. Votre formation est plus ancienne, je suis professeur en plus ancienne, et je me demande en quoi votre formation professionnalité, les romaines, les langues, l'histoire, en quoi ça vous a été utile dans votre carrière en communication. Et une sous-question, est-ce que ça a pu être un obstacle quand un employeur a vu votre élan financier? Est-ce que les gens qui vont dire qu'est-ce que c'est ça, à quoi ça sert, ce que vous devez faire avec ça? Comment dire, c'était utile, mais jusqu'à un certain point, ça a pu être mal perçu ou mal compris.
Je vais commencer à répondre à la première partie de la question, parce que je pense que ce que j'ai acquis, c'est vraiment, premièrement, juste un bagage culturel énorme, passion pour l'histoire, la capacité aussi d'assimiler beaucoup d'informations, d'analyser, la capacité de rédaction et de pouvoir comprendre aussi ce qui s'est passé dans l'histoire et puis de pouvoir se poser le même genre de questionnement pour tout ce qui se passe aujourd'hui, encore une fois, à travers le monde. Si c'était un obstacle, en tous les cas, ça ne m'a jamais été communiqué comme un obstacle. C'est sûr que les gens se questionnaient beaucoup par rapport à si histoire ancienne, communication, comment est-ce que vous êtes arrivé à faire comment c'était quoi là, au niveau de vraiment des intérêts, mais c'est vraiment pour moi, j'ai eu beaucoup de chance avec l'emploi que j'ai eu à Parc Canada parce que oui, il y avait un alignement avec l'histoire, sauf que moi, l'aspect recherche, un petit peu comme Lynn, je me trouvais très isolée. J'avais besoin d'être entourée, j'avais besoin d'être avec des gens. Alors quand j'ai vu l'aspect plus communication, où justement je pouvais raconter l'histoire d'une façon créative, d'une façon, oui, avec beaucoup d'interactivité, c'est là que j'ai découvert le monde des communications. Jamais est-ce que quelqu'un m'a dit « Oh mon Dieu Seigneur, qu'est-ce que tu as fait là avec ton background d'histoire? » Au contraire, je pense que les gens me trouvaient très chanceuse. Moi, je suis à l'université, j'ai choisi mon cours universitaire purement par intérêt personnel. Je n'avais pas pensé à mon cheminement dans 3 ans ou dans 4 ans. Je voulais vraiment aller, c'était vraiment un enrichissement personnel, ce qui était accompli. Et puis, c'est sûr qu'il y a beaucoup de compétences, comme je l'ai dit au tout début, que j'utilise encore aujourd'hui, puis même en me préparant pour la présentation, même moi, ça a été révélateur. Comment je puise encore dans toutes ces compétences-là.
Alors, on va passer à la question de Madame. On va vous apporter le micro.
My question is for Ian. As an HR partner, I guess you look through a lot of resumes during your day. And what we mostly do when we want to apply to a job, we just Google the resume format and we follow that. So have you ever received a very creative resume where it made you think, oh, I really want to hire this person even if they don't have the skills for that job?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I think, specifically working in high tech, we do see more than your fair share of creative resumes. We actually got one last week, and the woman had made a YouTube pitch, basically a 5-minute pitch, about why she thought she'd be great for the role. And it actually was interactive, so it had buttons in there where you could click and see her portfolio. We had a software developer that applied. It was actually amazing. So he created his own game, basically. And as he went through the game, you saw essentially, as you passed sort of each level, you would see a little bit of information about their career. It was amazing. And that person we actually did hire. So I think it just shows the drive and determination. I mean, in both those cases, I think the people actually were qualified for the job as well. But certainly, tailoring it, I think tailoring your resume, whatever the format you're applying in, tailoring it to the company that you're working for, that you want to work for, is so important. There's nothing more frustrating than getting a resume saying, "Hi, my name is Joe, and I'm applying for the operations manager at Microsoft," or something, and they've completely forgotten to change. They just copied and pasted one cover letter to another. That's an immediate no, because it shows that they didn't really do their research on the company. I think if someone doesn't necessarily have the skills, but they've done the research to say, this is what your company needs, these are my strengths, this is why I think that I can get to that point, certainly that's going to be huge. Let's face it, the most common method of trying to apply for a job is still going to be a resume. But definitely, I think the people that go out to career fairs, the people that go out to community events that we're at and approach us, that's showing that active initiative as well, beyond just sort of your standard format resume. And then in terms of a resume, I think any industry you're in, you can say what you need to say in 1 page or 2 pages. You should never be submitting a 45-page resume, because chances are we don't have the time to read it. So, yeah.
As well, professional associations, like I know from a communications perspective, we hire, or at least we post some of the openings within professional associations. Which is very, very targeted, but that's also something not to forget.
I kind of want to add something. So to get my job, I didn't even need a resume. I showed my skills based on the work and the people, the connections that I had made. So even before you get to that point, a resume is a piece of paper. It's supposed to sum up who you are, but what better way to show someone that than meeting them in person, making an impression on them. So It's really easy to graduate university and feel very discouraged and very lost. And my method of dealing with that was working, because I'm a workaholic. And so I ended up working for a brand ambassador company. It was like guerrilla marketing. I basically I was like one of those super peppy people who like, hey, do you want to try some Uncle Ben's rice? That was one of the companies that I ended up doing work for. And through that, I learned different skills. I met people through that organization. So you never know, what job that you currently have now, where that will lead you, or what people will connect you from one point or another. So a resume is a piece of paper, is what I'm saying. I didn't need a resume to necessarily get my job.
And the last question of the evening.
Donc, ma question c'est pour Martine. Quand la plupart des Canadiens pensent à Radio-Canada, je pense qu'ils pensent plutôt à des articles de journaux. Mais là, on est dans l'ère numérique. Pardon? Ils pensent aux articles qui apparaîtraient plutôt dans des journaux. Mais maintenant, avec les nouveaux médias, de quelle façon est-ce qu'il y a une valeur ajoutée? C'est pas juste des liens aux articles, là, mais c'est quoi les défis des nouveaux médias?
Je veux dire qu'après une couverture au sujet de CBC Radio-Canada, c'est autre chose que les journaux, c'est ça?
Oui.
Non, c'est sûr, je dirais, ça fait toujours partie, parce qu'à tous les matins, moi j'ai quelqu'un qui fait la revue de presse, ce qui a été dit la veille au sujet de CBC Radio-Canada, parce que moi c'est le Parcours. Mais maintenant, on a également, donc lui c'est la veille plutôt traditionnelle, mais maintenant on a quelqu'un aussi, 2 personnes, juste dans la petite équipe, parce que les réseaux, CBC et Radio-Canada, ont également des gens qui font la veille de tout ce qui se dit sur les réseaux sociaux. Alors, ça a vraiment changé la donne. En plus d'avoir un rapport sur les médias traditionnels, on a également un rapport de commentaires de gens qui parlent de CBC Radio-Canada. On ne répond pas à tout. C'est sûr que s'il y a des faits à corriger, on s'implique. Sinon, il y a des choses qu'on laisse passer. Mais maintenant, les réseaux sociaux, ça fait partie de toutes nos stratégies et puis on en fait la veille. Absolument.
Alors, pour clore la soirée, merci beaucoup pour vos questions. Je vous inviterai à rester là. J'inviterai la professeure Elena Valenzuela à faire le mot de la fin et nous partager quelques informations.
Thank you very much. It's such a pleasure to hear from our old students and how well you're doing. Lisa, you're one of my favorite students. Back then, I'm not supposed to say that, but it's so nice to see you doing so well. And I've been following you since you were animatrice years and now the BNB. So anyway, so it's wonderful, and I think we've all taken something from what you were saying. Some of the themes that you were all touching upon was applying your creativity, taking opportunities, using these skills that we learned in our arts degree and applying them to your job, your passion projects that you turn into careers. And on this note, I want to promote an event that I had the pleasure of organizing with Mireille here at Alumni Relations called Arts Innovation, Art Innovation, and where we're going to have some alumni and some people that just have arts degrees and who went on to become entrepreneurs or have the entrepreneurial mindset. And so we're going to hear from them, and they're going to give us their personal stories and how they got to where they are, and hopefully inspire our students. In the afternoon, we're even going to have a pitch contest, like you were talking about, where students will be able to, people in the audience will be able to sort of pitch themselves and say, why they should be hired for this job, why they're, why you should hire them. So they're going to have their little 3-minute elevator pitch, and they can even win a toque at the end. I know, that's the big draw. Yeah. So, if you want, I think it's pretty cool. I think I haven't seen it, but I heard it is. Okay, yes. So anyway, that's our event. It's called Arts Innovation, Art Innovation. We'd love to see you all there. And so the flyer thing you've learned here, and take it to another level next week, November 18th. I don't have a slide. I realized in my class that perhaps I should have had a slide with the Eventbrite information, but I'm don't.
But it's on the faculty's website.
That's right, yes. So, or you can just Google Eventbrite, Ottawa, Arts Innovation, Art Innovation, and it's there, so Google. So anyway, we hope to see you there. Okay, yeah.
Juste vérifier aussi les réseaux sociaux de la Faculté des Arts pour avoir une formation. Je suis pas beaucoup sur les réseaux sociaux, mais je suis de la Faculté des Arts, alors vérifiez-la. J'aimerais vraiment remercier Elena aussi d'être venue accepter de faire le mot de la fin. Je veux vraiment remercier nos trois invités. Thank you so much for taking the time. There's a lot of inspiration, not just for recent grads or for students, but it's never too late to be open to another career. A bit of I was not destined for academia, but I found myself here. And I think your words will carry on through the YouTube channel. Other people will be able to benefit. So thank you for taking the time. Lisa came in from Toronto for this. So I think a big round of applause, not only for our speakers, but for Mireille and her team, and also to you for being here. We have parting gifts for you. But there's still food at the back, and there's time to talk. On ne sait jamais à qui on va rencontrer dans la salle. Alors profitez de temps qui est ici, on a encore la salle pour un peu de temps, discuter, parler avec vos invités. And remember, you never know who you're sitting beside on the bus. Okay? You take all the opportunities you have. Bonne soirée.